If you strip away the noise, the influencers, the hype coins, the drama, the short-term pumps, and you actually listen to the people who build this space, the researchers, the developers, the enterprise teams, the analysts, the actual crypto experts, you start hearing a totally different story. Calmer story. A more grounded and confident story. And it always circles back to the same three names: XRP, XLM, and HBAR. And I know someone watching this right now probably thinks, but the price hasn't moved. Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Crypto experts aren't obsessed with price. They're obsessed with infrastructure. Because they know price follows utility the same way sunlight follows morning. You don't have to force it. It just happens when enough things line up. Experts don't look at what's trending. They look at what's working. And these three, they're not trying to entertain anyone. They're building the backbone of systems the world will eventually rely on, whether retail understands it or not. Let's start with XRP. When you talk to actual crypto experts, you hear the same thing. XRP isn't sexy, it's not trying to pump your adrenaline with meme culture, it doesn't scream for attention. Because it doesn't need to. It was designed from day one for scale, compliance, and real-world integration. That's why banks, payment providers, liquidity hubs, and enterprise-level networks keep circling back to it. Not because it's trendy, but because it works. It solves a problem that traditional finance still struggles with: moving value across borders instantly without friction, without insane fees, without delays. And experts pay attention to that. They pay attention to the tech, the regulatory clarity, the fact that XRP has survived one of the biggest regulatory battles in crypto history and still came out standing. They pay attention to liquidity corridors quietly turning on. They pay attention to institutional-grade adoption that most retail investors ignore. They don't care if people call it a bank coin. Good. If banks use it, that's even better. Institutions bring volume. Volume brings demand. Demand brings price. That's how this works. Then there's XLM. Experts love XLM for a totally different reason, because it's a connector, a bridge, the quiet rail that ties systems together. XLM is the unbothered chain. It's not out here flexing partnerships for clout. It's just doing the work. Building cross-border rails that connect fintech platforms in places people don't even think about. Regions where fast, cheap payments aren't a luxury. They're survival. Experts watch the code, the upgrades, the anchor networks on Stellar, the stablecoin rails forming quietly, the enterprise integrations rolling out behind the scenes. You talk to developers in the Stellar ecosystem, and they speak about the chain like you talk about a car that never breaks down. It just works. And that's exactly why experts take it seriously. Because fast, reliable, cost-efficient infrastructure is the kind of thing that institutions migrate to slowly at first, then all at once. XLM isn't trying to be the loudest coin. It's trying to be the coin that lasts. That's why crypto experts still rate it so highly. And then we get to HBAR, the favorite child of enterprise minds. Experts look at HBAR and they don't see a cryptocurrency. They see a network built for the biggest use cases on Earth. They see low fees, high throughput, finality measured in seconds, governance run by some of the most credible organizations in the world. They see a chain used for tokenization, compliance, filing systems, supply chain tracking, settlement, security, and real-world digital infrastructure. HBAR is for the people who think long-term, the people who ask, how do we rebuild global systems using distributed tech? It's not trying to be cool. It's trying to be useful. And usefulness is what experts chase. Always. They're not looking at hype cycles. They're looking at which networks enterprises adopt, which networks governments trust, which networks deliver reliability. And the crazy thing? All three, XRP, XLM, and HBAR, are moving toward the same direction. Real-world use. Real-world settlement. Real-world infrastructure. This isn't the casino side of crypto. This is the utility side. The side that wins when the rest of the space stops playing games and starts demanding reliability. So when you ask why crypto experts still consider these three great investments, it's simple. Because they aren't guessing. They're watching the foundations being built. They're watching the use cases expand. They're watching institutions quietly position themselves. They're watching adoption happen in slow motion. Experts don't chase noise. Experts chase infrastructure. Experts chase what lasts. And that's why they keep pointing back to XRP, XLM, and HBAR, even when the rest of the market is distracted. You know what's funny? Every time you sit down with someone who actually understands this industry, not the keyboard warriors, not the people who only show up during bull markets, I mean the developers, analysts, builders, researchers, they all say the same thing when you ask them what they think of XRP, XLM, and HBAR. They look at you with this tired little smile, like, I don't know how people still don't get it, because they see things retail doesn't see. They see things before retail even knows they exist. They see the back end, the integrations, the white papers, the enterprise tests, the compliance frameworks, the regulatory signals, the data that never trends on Twitter but quietly shapes the future. And when they look at these three projects, they see systems designed for the next era of finance, not the current one. The average person only sees charts, but experts, they see architecture. They see the bones of the system. They see how things plug together. And that's where XRP, XLM, and HBAR stand out in ways most people will only understand when the price finally reflects the reality. Take XRP, for example. Experts love XRP for one reason. It solved the hardest problem first. Cross-border settlement is not sexy. It's not flashy. It's complicated, political, regulated, expensive, slow, and stuck inside ancient systems built before the internet even existed. Most chains didn't touch it because it's a nightmare. But XRP went straight into the fire. It walked into the most difficult battlefield in crypto, compliance, and banking, and built a solution that actually works. Experts aren't impressed by hype. They're impressed by resilience. XRP survived lawsuits, misinformation campaigns, coordinated attacks, delistings, and still stands tall with real adoption behind it. That's not luck. That's architecture. That's engineering. That's what long-term investors pay attention to. Now look at XLM. Crypto experts admire XLM because of the way it protects its mission. It's not trying to be a casino. It's not chasing fads or hype. Stellar is building financial access rails globally, especially in regions that need it most. Experts understand what that means. They understand the importance of anchor networks, on-ramps, off-ramps, stablecoin issuance, remittance corridors, and fintech partnerships. These things don't go viral on social media, but they change lives. Experts pay attention to how seamlessly XLM handles microtransactions, payments under $1, under a cent, under a fraction of a cent, because that's what global adoption looks like. It's not a yacht. It's not a meme. It's everyday usage. Experts understand that the next wave of crypto adoption won't come from speculation. It will come from necessity. And XLM is one of the few networks already positioned for that. And then there's HBAR, the chain that crypto experts refer to as underrated to the point of comedy. HBAR isn't just a blockchain. It's a trust layer, a verification engine, something built for enterprises that can't afford downtime, errors, or vulnerabilities. Experts admire HBAR because it takes on the kind of problems most chains avoid. It's the chain you pick when you need certainty, when you need finality, when you need governance that isn't some anonymous vote on Discord. Experts see that HBAR is plugged into real corporate infrastructure, and not small companies but names that run half the world. Supply chains, authentication systems, tokenization, compliance rails, government systems. These aren't theoretical ideas. They are production-level deployments. Crypto experts don't care that retail doesn't see the value yet, because they know retail will see it later. They know innovation always gets recognized after it becomes impossible to ignore. And that's the connecting thread here, the reason experts group these three projects together. It's not because they're similar. It's because they complement each other. XRP moves value. XLM connects systems. HBAR verifies trust. A global digital economy needs all three: movement, connection, validation. It's a triangle, a triforce, a foundation. Experts aren't waiting for hype. They're watching the pieces slide together like puzzle fragments. They're watching regulation evolve. They're watching enterprises test systems quietly. They're watching governments build frameworks. They're watching liquidity pools open. They're watching corridors being wired and waiting to go live. And when experts talk about long-term potential, they're not saying, oh, it might pump next week. That's retail thinking. Experts think in cycles. Phases. Infrastructure waves. They think in terms of system adoption. A new global financial layer doesn't explode overnight. It gets rolled out in segments. Department by department. Country by country. Integration by integration. But you know what experts always say. Once real adoption flips from testing to active, the market reacts violently. That's why they stay bullish. That's why these three are still considered strong investments. Not because of what they are today, but because of what they're positioned to be tomorrow. Experts see these three projects the way early internet architects saw TCP, IP, HTML, and email protocols. Nobody cared at first. Nobody understood. Nobody appreciated the potential. Then suddenly the entire world ran on it. That's the feeling with XRP. That's the feeling with XLM. That's the feeling with HBAR. Not hype. Not fantasy. Alignment. Infrastructure. The kind that becomes obvious only when it's too late for the people who laughed. Let's slow down for a second. Have you noticed something strange about the people who've been in the crypto space the longest? Not the loud TikTok traders. Not the short-term moon boys. I mean the analysts who study markets for a living. The developers who read blockchain white papers for fun. The researchers who follow regulation, enterprise deals, ISO standards, and banking rails like oxygen. Those people, the boring, disciplined, long-term thinkers, all quietly hold the same belief. XRP, XLM, and HBAR are still three of the smartest long-term investments in the entire digital asset market. And the crazy part? Most retail investors don't even understand why. So let's peel this back layer by layer, the way crypto experts actually see it. Not the hype, not the noise, but the underlying forces shaping the next decade. Crypto experts always start with one question. What real-world problem is this project solving? Not, can it go viral? Not, is the logo cute? Not, did it pump last week? No. The real question is utility, scalability, adoption, and long-term relevance. XRP solves cross-border payments, a $155 trillion industry. The experts know that even if XRP never becomes the everything coin, tapping into just 1% of global settlements would make it massively undervalued today. XLM solves low-cost global transfers and financial inclusion. Think unbanked communities, remittances, microtransactions, merchant payments. A real-world problem that governments, NGOs, and fintechs obsess over. HBAR solves enterprise-level trust, speed, and governance. Not crypto speed. We're talking Visa-level throughput, near-instant settlement, and trusted brand-name council members running the network. When experts see a token solving a huge problem with a real customer base, they don't treat it like hype. They treat it like early-stage Amazon, early-stage Google, early-stage Microsoft, and silently accumulate. Crypto experts don't care about partnerships like, we collaborated with an influencer. We did a giveaway. We joined a Discord group. They want institutional-level partnerships that impact governments, banks, enterprises, and regulation. And guess which three projects consistently show up in those conversations? XRP, banks, payment providers, remittance companies, fintech rails. Ripple's network includes real financial institutions moving real money. XLM, IBM, MoneyGram, Circle, and humanitarian organizations. This isn't potential partnerships. This is live infrastructure being used by real entities. HBAR, Google, IBM, Boeing, LG, Dell, Standard Bank, Nomura. This isn't just a list. It's a signal. When multi-billion-dollar corporations choose a blockchain, they're telling experts something. We trust this tech enough to build on it. Crypto experts treat these partnerships like fuel tanks for long-term growth. Because institutions move slowly, but once they commit, they stay. Experts understand something that retail investors ignore. The next bull run won't belong to the Wild West. It will belong to the compliant chains. And quietly, XRP, XLM, and HBAR have positioned themselves as the safe options for governments and enterprises. XRP survived the SEC lawsuit and came out as one of the few assets legally recognized as not a security. XLM is fully aligned with U.S. compliance frameworks and known for transparency with regulators. HBAR was built from day one with governance, enterprise clarity, and predictable network behavior. While meme coins fight to stay relevant, while random tokens get delisted, while questionable projects vanish overnight, these three have become the regulator-approved, institution-ready choices. And experts know that when governments finally open the doors to full-scale blockchain use, these will be the first tokens invited in. Experts care about transaction speed, transaction cost, network reliability, throughput, energy efficiency, governance, institutional trust, real-world performance. And guess what? All three crush the competition. XRP, 3 to 5 second settlement, low fees, proven reliability, handles real banking rails. XLM, near zero fees, high throughput, designed for everyday microtransactions. HBAR, one of the fastest mainstream distributed networks, predictable costs, asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance (ABFT), one of the highest levels of security, enterprise-grade stability. When crypto experts build their portfolios, they don't pick projects based on noise. They pick based on infrastructure strength, and these three are built like future global utilities. Here's something experts love: resilience. So many tokens died. So many projects vanished. So many next big things went to zero. But XRP, XLM, and HBAR? They are still here, still funded, still improving, still partnered, still trusted. And any asset that survives, bear markets, lawsuits, delistings, FUD, corporate slow adoption, regulation changes, is an asset that has real technological and institutional backbone. Long-term investors pay attention to who survives winter, because those are the projects that bloom in spring. This is the part most retail investors completely miss. To experts, XRP is future settlement plumbing. XLM is the global transfer layer for everyday payments. HBAR is the enterprise trust layer for real-time digital infrastructure. These are not simple investments. They are digital layer infrastructure for the next version of the global economy. It's like getting early exposure to Swift, Visa, IBM Cloud, Amazon AWS, FedNow equivalent tech, before the world knew what those things would become. When you see XRP, XLM, and HBAR through this lens, their current prices look ridiculous. Undervalued, almost comedic. Experts aren't buying hype. They're buying infrastructure. Every major expert in finance keeps saying the same thing. The next real crypto boom will be tokenization, not speculation. We're talking about digitizing real estate, stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, government assets, business contracts, entire financial systems. And the truth is, XRP, XLM, and HBAR are three of the blockchains best positioned to facilitate that transition. Why? Because tokenization requires speed, compliance, trust, low fees, security, predictable performance, institutional-grade stability. And guess which networks check every box? Exactly. Crypto experts love XRP, XLM, and HBAR because they're not just coins, they're infrastructure bets. They're long-term, real-world, regulation-aligned platforms solving billion- and trillion-dollar problems. That's why experts keep accumulating. Silently, patiently, confidently, and the market will eventually catch up. After everything we've broken down, the partnerships, the regulation shift, the enterprise adoption, the trillion-dollar use cases, the expert opinions, the silent accumulation happening behind the scenes, doesn't it feel like we're standing right on the edge of something bigger than a normal crypto bull run? Not hype, not noise, not number go up. Something structural, something foundational, something that changes what crypto is. Because here's the quiet truth that nobody on Twitter or TikTok wants to say out loud. The next wave of wealth isn't going to come from randomness. It's going to come from utility, from the projects that built real value during the bear market, from the networks working with institutions instead of fighting them, from the chains that survived every winter and kept building when no one was watching. And the deeper you look behind the curtain, the more obvious it becomes. XRP, XLM, and HBAR were never supposed to be meme coins. They were built to be infrastructure, the boring kind, the reliable kind, the kind that powers systems you use every day without even realizing it. Think about it. You don't wake up excited about Visa's back-end network, but it moves trillions. You don't obsess over Swift messaging rails, but they connect the global banking system. You don't talk about IBM's enterprise cloud, but major companies depend on it. That's exactly where XRP, XLM, and HBAR are heading, the invisible layer of the new financial world. A world where settlement rails aren't stuck in the 1970s, where payments don't take 5 days, where remittances don't drain half your salary, where enterprises don't wait minutes for confirmation, and where countries can tokenize assets without fear of network instability. This is the type of shift that doesn't make noise until it's already in motion. And by the time the mainstream finally wakes up, the early positioning will already be locked in. That's what the experts understand. That's why they're still bullish. That's why they're still buying. That's why the quiet confidence around XRP, XLM, and HBAR is stronger now than ever. Because when you zoom out, when you look past the price volatility, when you stop getting distracted by whatever is trending on crypto Twitter today, you start to realize that some projects aren't fighting for attention. They're building the future. The real takeaway. If there's one thing you walk away with after watching this video, let it be this. The biggest opportunities in crypto don't scream. They whisper. They hide in the boring corners of utility. They live inside regulatory frameworks. They grow in enterprise partnerships, technical documentation, proof-of-concept pilots, and compliance meetings that most investors will never bother to read. But experts read them. Institutions study them. Governments depend on them. And that's why they're betting big on XRP, XLM, and HBAR. Not for a quick flip. Not for a dopamine hit. But because these networks are lining up perfectly with the direction the world is already moving toward. Whether you hold these assets or you're just watching from the sidelines, the message is the same. Don't sleep on long-term fundamentals. They're the part of crypto that doesn't trend until suddenly one day they do. Before you click away, do me one favor, not for the algorithm but for yourself. Hit the like button if this video clarified something you've always felt deep down but couldn't put into words. Because I know a lot of you have been holding XRP, XLM, or HBAR for months, maybe years, feeling that quiet conviction that these coins aren't like the rest. And you weren't wrong. Also, subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. Not hype, not hopium, but the real macro picture nobody else is connecting. And comment below. Do you believe XRP, XLM, and HBAR will be the backbone of future finance? I read every comment. Your thoughts shape the next videos. This journey isn't just charts and predictions. It's a community of people trying to understand where the world is heading before everyone else does. So join the conversation. Stay early. Stay curious. And remember, sometimes the quiet coins become the loudest stories.